Welcome to Most Myself. I'm Michelle Madrid, and I am really glad that you're here with me today. I want to start off by saying I'm coming to you from a different location today. I have been for the last 24 hours or so at my home in the Santa Monica Mountains, and this is a really sacred place for me. It's a place where I come to earth myself, to ground myself, to center myself, and to be inspired by the nature all around me, the mountains, the colors of spring, the yellows, the lavenders, the greens, the sounds of birds, the big blue sky, my horses, and my dogs. And I have been allowing myself to just be in this space, and it has inspired me. And I am so inspired to share this message with you today because I know it's so very important. Because if you've ever found yourself wondering, where do I fit in now? Where do I fit in now? In the lives of the very people you have poured yourself into for years and years, then this episode is for you. Because there is a quiet kind of grief that lives here. And not many people are talking about it. Certainly not enough. But many women are standing in the middle of it, feeling it right now, and I hear from them daily. They're standing in the middle of a nest that once felt full and active and alive. And now there's more space in that nest. And that space feels really lonely. There's less activity. Active mothering feels less active. The rhythm of life feels so different. The kids have flown off, as kids will do, and the ache that these women feel, these mothers, is deep and it is real. And this is what I want to explore with you inside of this episode today. And let me share a little truth here. A truth that I've learned over many years of living in the skin of a woman and a mother. We are praised for how much we give as mothers, how much we show up as mothers. We are praised for how much we sacrifice as mothers. And then one day, suddenly, and it happens fast, the rhythm changes. And the kids who used to need you all the time, they don't need you in the same way. Maybe they don't call as often. Or they're out there building lives that don't revolve around you anymore. And suddenly there's this profound, deep ache that surfaces. And the question that arises from that ache is, am I still relevant? Am I still relevant in their lives? And I got to tell you, this very question can feel awkward and it can feel sad to sit with. Because the role that once defined our days is shifting. It's changing. And suddenly we're standing at the edge of life, a life that looks different than what we've known for years and years. And it feels unfamiliar. And there's sadness and there is awkwardness to that. We can feel so out of place. But we are not too much for feeling this way. We're human for feeling this way. You're human, and you are allowed to have these feelings. You're allowed to have them. And I want to say something here that might feel relieving. It might bring you a sense of relief, and I hope it does. That feeling that you may be having, it doesn't make you needy. It doesn't make you dramatic. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you a woman who loves deeply. And you should feel a sense of pride in that. You're a woman who loves deeply and completely. But here's where this gets really important. Because if we're not careful, we can interpret this shift in our lives as loss of value instead of what it actually is, a transition of a role. And those are not the same thing. Your role in their lives is evolving, but your value, that was never meant to be tied only to motherhood. And I think part of what makes this season so disorienting, the season of midlife and of empty nesting, if you are there, is that the loss we feel as women and mothers is often invisible. I've said it before, no one brings casseroles to your front door or a sympathy card when your child doesn't need you in the same way anymore. But you feel it. You feel that grief, that little sting of loss. No one calls it grief when the bedroom is quiet, when there's no noise coming from their rooms, or the text messages are fewer, or the family rhythm that once organized your entire life begins to loosen. But it is a kind of grief. And not because anything is wrong, not because your children are doing anything wrong by growing up, but because something real is changing shape. And when something real changes shape, there is loss. There's the primary change. Your children are becoming adults. They are building their own lives and making their own choices and needing you differently. But then there are the secondary losses, the quieter ones. The loss of being the first person that they jump in the car after school to tell about what happened in their day. The loss of knowing the details of their everyday life, their schedules, their rhythm, their flow. The loss of the role that gave structure to your days. The loss of being needed in familiar ways. The loss of a version of motherhood that once made you feel anchored and useful and central. And because society doesn't always recognize these losses, many women suppress them. And we tell ourselves, I should be grateful. Well, this is what's supposed to happen anyway. They're healthy, they're independent, I shouldn't feel sad. Why do I feel sad? Or other people have it worse. I shouldn't feel so bad. But gratitude and grief can live in the same room. I want to say that again. Gratitude and grief can live in the same room. It's the both and of life. And you can hold both of those things. You can be proud of your children and still miss who you were when they needed you more. You can celebrate their independence and still feel the ache of your own changing identity. You can know this is right and still feel the sadness of what is no longer the same. And that doesn't make you clingy or needy. It makes you honest. And this is why the ache you feel needs expression. Because what we don't express, we often suppress. And what we suppress doesn't disappear. It starts to shape us from the inside. It starts to shape us from the inside out. And it can become resentment. It can become loneliness. It can become overreaching. It can become a quiet belief that we no longer matter. But what if this ache you feel isn't here to tell you that you're less relevant? That is not the message it's carrying. What if it's here to tell you that your role is changing shape and now you are being invited to change shape too? And to not disappear in your own life, to not become less, but to evolve. So let's bring this into the work that I do. So if the ache is, I feel less relevant, then the deeper need might be, I want to feel seen. I want to feel needed. I want to feel connected. So now here's the shift. What if that need isn't only meant to be met through your children anymore? What if part of this season is learning how to meet yourself again? What if that's the need? So one small step, ask yourself, where in my life am I still waiting to be chosen instead of choosing myself? Where in my life am I still waiting to be chosen instead of choosing myself? And then take one small step toward that place of choosing yourself in this moment and honoring that. Maybe that's for you a 5-minute meditation, a call to a friend, a walk in nature, some beautiful offering of self-care, saying a truth out loud that you've been holding in and suppressing. Or it could look like it looks for me, coming to a place that soothes my soul and spending 24 hours reconnecting, renewing, and resetting so I can enter back into my life feeling stronger, grounded, more connected, and more open. One step, small, doable, loving step that moves you forward toward that place and the honoring of that need. Because here's the truth. You are not becoming less in this season. You are being invited to become more of who you are beyond who you've been for everyone else. That's the invitation. To become more of who you are beyond who you have been for everyone else. And that, just saying that, brings me a sense of power and knowing. And there's excitement there. I have this opportunity and this invitation before me to become more of who I am beyond who I have been for everyone else. And that is such an impactful awakening. I feel the energy in my body just saying it. I hope that you feel it too. Say it out loud with me. The ache that I feel, that I'm beginning to acknowledge, pay attention to, communicate with, naming a need that has been unmet and taking one small step toward that need, one small step forward toward honoring myself. This is an invitation to become more of who I am beyond that woman that I have been for everyone else, the mother I have been for everyone else. I've done it with love. I've done it with commitment. I've done it with joy. And now it's time to pour a little of that back onto me and to begin to plant the seeds of what is next for me in my life as I evolve along this journey of life. And that, my friend, that is where most myself begins. There is hope. There is hope. And I thank you for joining me today.